Greetings, Eric Smith here with a general introduction to visual law, and we see here the diagrams for an introduction to the philosophy of this graphical method. The principle here is that complementarity is prevalent in the law, complementarity being the fact that most situations in the law have an objective half, that is, let's say a physical occurrence that happens that can be observed visually, and then also a qualitative half that is judged by human beings, basically, in regards to the situation being analyzed. That's the basic complementarity in the law, which is very familiar to all of us. This visual method just exposes the complementarity in diagrams. So there's many ways of looking at this objective and qualitative half. Another way of looking at it is that the objective or physical half is the logical side, and the qualitative part is the legal side, because this is where the value judgments take place as to whether a legal situation is present or has been triggered. Often the word used as an interface is reasonable. Reasonable refers in a sense to the totality of the circumstances, but it's sometimes taken to be logical and objective, this half, but of course we can arrive at no conclusion of reasonableness without considering the totality of the circumstances. This complementarity in an example of crime, for example, is seen in the necessity for the two elements. Number one, the actus reus, the physical act, and number two, the mens rea, the mental state. So those are the two sides. Certainly we can see that very quickly in a criminal situation. Now, the general idea with the visual law is to use diagrams and charts because these are more memorable than text in remembering the law. And this abstract schema, or if you will, the complementarity schema, aids in the recall of the law. The diagrams aid in the recall of the law. In general, the notation is that the size of text, the font of the text, indicate the level of importance. If text is bolded or written in capital letters or written in with emphasis, then that text, that note of the keyword is more important than other keywords. In brackets, square brackets, are put exceptions. So exceptions are shown in brackets, and also the proximity of entries or keywords with respect to each other shows the strength of the relationship between the keywords. So this visual law method, it often takes the form, as you can see here. The elements of a law or a legal situation are put together in this way. In circle number 1 is shown those elements that pertain to the first party, and the first party will usually have performed an action with a certain intent or knowingness or scienter. And those each have their place above or below in the circle. Then usually the first party causes something to be done on the second party. The causation itself is also split into two parts. Number one, the physical causation at the bottom here of the arrow, and number two, the legal or value-based values associated with or qualities associated with the causation. Here we put the word privity as an example of the qualitative contact between the first party and the second party. The second party then usually will incur or suffer a physical change, such as damages, and they do so under a quality, an emotion perhaps, such as distress, or with a knowingness that something happened, such as notice. So usually there are two actors, each with qualitative and objective parts, and here I showed the circles as their heads, actor A and actor B, and oftentimes actor A takes an action on actor B. Now, sometimes that's different because there may be three parties in a contractual situation, or there may be more parties, in which case you would analyze that one step at a time. Okay, so another aspect or approach that we take here in the visual law is the use of Venn diagrams, and the fact that we are looking at states or sets, and sets that may overlap each other. So set 1 may contain a situation, set 2 may contain another situation, and there may be an overlap between the two situations, such as an overlap between two crimes, the elements of the crime, for example, in the Blockburger rule situation. Here's an example of an exception put in brackets. This would be a small exception to whatever set 2 is describing. And we can insert that right in as a note in the visual law with square brackets. And lastly, on this page, oftentimes in the law, a balancing test occurs. In the absence of a discrete legal rule, that is a very precise legal rule that judges yes or no, oftentimes a balancing test occurs. This occurs in equitable situations, equitable judgments. And here we would place situation A on one side and situation B on one side and judge which has more merit. And this balancing test symbol would quickly indicate to us in the visual law diagrams that a balancing test situation